Monkton Pond today, and we often talk about how ice fishing is a real simple sport to get into because you don't need much gear, but yet often we go out with a whole sled full of equipment. Today I have an ice auger, a jig stick, and just a couple bivots, so I'm going to catch a meal of perch using just that equipment. So here we go. First we'll drill a hole and see what we have. Okay. Ooh. An auger is clearly one piece of equipment that's required for ice fishing. You do need to have a hole that gets through the ice. And this is just a simple 4-inch hand auger that's very inexpensive to buy at sporting goods stores. And you can see I can very clearly get through the ice here and have a hole to go fishing. What's really helpful afterwards is to have a little scoop to get the ice chunks out of that hole so that your line doesn't get caught up as you're dropping it down or reeling up a fish. And this doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could even be a plastic bottle just to get some of those ice shavings out. And the same thing about an ice fishing rod. An ice fishing rod is basically just a short fishing rod. This jig stick is a lightweight rod. You don't need anything super heavy if you're fishing for panfish. And it's helpful because you can really detect those light bites of perch and sunfish and other panfish species that you often come out fishing for. The same thing with tackle. You really don't need much of anything that's fancy or expensive. I only have a couple jigs with me today to catch anything that we're fishing for. I have a Haley jig, which is just a little long metal jig with a hook on the end, a couple tungsten jigs, and then a little minnow bait. So I'll start with a Haley jig and see if we're able to get anything. And then the last thing I'll say is at most bait stores you can buy these little containers for a couple bucks of spikes or wax worms. And these are, for the cost, pretty helpful at attracting fish such as perch to your lure and really increases your odds. So again, stop by any bait store and they should sell these during the ice fishing season and really helps increase your odds. So just dropping the hook down the line, and then you let it go to the bottom until the line stops moving and reel up just until you lose that tension so the hook's right off the bottom. Oftentimes perch or your sunfish hang right there right off the bottom, and you have to put the jig right in front of their face, and that's what gets them to bite. And really what you're watching for, again, is keep that hook right above the bottom. I like sometimes double check, make sure I drop it down. I see some of those loops in my line and lift it just until the line straightens out. And then you're just watching for either to feel a fish bite sometimes, or sometimes it's just as much as a little subtle movement of your rod tip that shows that you have a fish biting. And oftentimes when you first start in an area, sometimes you get lucky and there's fish right underneath of you, but other times they might be some distance away. And at that point, if you just move it up and down, and people call it bouncing on the bottom, that can stir up some of the silt and muck that's on the bottom and create little clouds of sediment that attract some fish that are a little further away from you that come in to see what's going on. Having that lightweight rod is more beneficial so you can see that really light bite and pull up a fish. Yellow perch, certainly not a keeper size, but we're on the board and not skunked for the day. Put it right back down the hole. See what else is in the area. And sometimes after you fish a hole for a little while, and if you aren't getting any bites, don't be afraid to move. When fishing for panfish, the school of fish often moves, and by moving, you're either following those fish or sometimes finding some bigger ones. So that's what we're gonna do here. Grab our gear and go drill another hole and start fishing again. And it's surprising how many times when you come to a new spot, how quickly you'll find a fish. Oh, and look at that. Got another fish. Species number 3, a bluegill. This one isn't a keeper size quite yet. Certainly bigger than the ones we had been getting, but we'll put this one back down the hole again. But it's a step in the right direction. Well, overall, we still had a pretty good day on the ice. We caught a lot of fish. The size wasn't there on a lot of them, but we still have 4 keepers that we're bringing home for dinner tonight. This just is to show that without that much fishing gear, we had a fun time out here this morning. Really, we just came out with a jig stick, an auger, a scoop, and a couple jigs and spikes, and we were able to catch these fish and have a good time with everyone. So I hope that this is a good opportunity for you to realize that without much investment, you can get out and go ice fishing and enjoy our fisheries in the winter.